October 7th, 2023, the Palestinian organization that governs the Gaza Strip, known as Hamas, breaks out of their borders and invades neighboring Israel. In the ensuing attack, around 1,200 Israelis are murdered, and 240 hostages are taken back to Gaza. To Jews, it's the darkest day in their history since the Holocaust. For Palestinians, it's the latest in a long line of violent acts. Although these events unfold over 3,000 miles away, their impact resonates deeply within communities across the UK.
Nobody is ever going to recover for decades from this trauma.
They're fighting for the right to their land. They're not terrorists. They are absolutely not.
When you see over 100,000 people turning up in central London, marching, baying for our blood.
The continued existence of Israel is a war crime.
I think the people who have very strong views are the ones that worry me the most.
In this film, we navigate the complex emotions and perspectives that define each group and try to understand why this war is dividing the country. Magen is an Israeli Jew living in the UK. The events of October the 7th will stay with him for the rest of his life.
So I'll talk about it from my perspective here in London. Saturday morning, usually I get the morning shift with the kids. We get a message from my parents saying we can hear missiles being fired and we can hear gunshots. We've locked the house and we're in the safe room. You know, there's terrorists in the village. Slowly, it's becoming, you know, the most horrible nightmare we could have imagined. They came through the air, landed in the village with a lot of weapons, and they fired a rocket at my parents' house. And my sister manages to get in touch with a neighbor. She saw through the window that the house, my parents' house, is completely burnt. No one's gonna give us an official account. There's chaos everywhere. But we realized that my parents died in the attack. The pain is really unbearable. But maybe for us, there's some consolation in the fact that my parents lived a full life. You know, they were both healthy, and they died together, and they died quickly. Tensions now are very high, and in part, I mean, I understand it. You see the images coming out of Gaza, see the images coming out of Israel. It's very hard not to take sides and have a very strong, angry position. But I see that was exactly the purpose of the terrorists, for people to go to extremes and not see the shared present and the shared future that is possible. And so I think if you stay in that extreme, you're letting the terrorists win twice.
אני יודע שכולנו רוצים תוצאות כאן ועכשיו. זה ייקח זמן.
I know that we all want immediate results. It will take time, but I promise you, dear Israeli citizens, at the end of this campaign, all of our enemies will know that it was a grave mistake to attack Israel. What we will do to our enemies in the coming days will reverberate with them for generations.
Within hours of the Hamas attacks, Israel retaliates, bombarding the Gaza Strip with airstrikes. A massive assault claiming thousands of lives.
I'm British Palestinian. My mum's English, my dad is Palestinian. The family that I have in Gaza is my dad's cousins and uncles, so my grandfather's brothers and sisters and all of their children. When we started hearing about the indiscriminate bombing again, I think it's sad to say, but it's nothing new for us. The siege on Gaza has been going on for 16 years. The ongoing occupation of Palestine by the Israeli settler colonial state has been going on for 75 years. So as Palestinians, we're all very used to hearing bad news and waiting for bad news to come out of Gaza or the West Bank. One of the residential buildings that my family stay in was bombed. We lost 14 members of the family. They were killed in that bombing. No chance for them to even get out to a hospital. They were killed on impact. I think when you have that much, that amount of bad news that comes over the years, to an extent you do feel a little bit numb to it, because we're sort of in one hand expecting it, in one hand dreading it. I think that it's human nature to sort of become a little bit numb due to the trauma that has just built up over the years. We feel rather guilty that it's not us there, which sounds strange, but we feel that, you know, the privilege of living in a safe country, of not having to deal with bombs on our doorsteps, we do feel guilty about that. We use that guilt and translate it into action. So, you know, rather than sitting at home and grieving and crying, which of course does happen because we're only human, but more so, we're out on the streets, we're campaigning, we're sharing on Instagram. It can be really, really frightening for Palestinians when they're in Gaza, in this small area being bombed, and they don't think the world is seeing what's going on. They don't think the world cares about what's going on, and they don't think that we're trying to help to stop what's going on. By doing these marches, we're able to show them that. And there's been countless messages out of Gaza, from my family even, thanking us, saying that we can't believe that this is happening on the streets of the UK, and that they want us to continue exactly that, showing the world that there are people who care about Palestine, and that we won't shut up about Palestine until Palestine is free.
Protests begin to spring up around the country. Each week, the numbers grow and grow.
I don't want to get to the point where in 30 years' time people ask me, what did you do in the genocide? And I say, I reposted some stories on Instagram.
Stop the murdering of innocent Israelis and Jews! Stop it! Why? Why? Stupid woman!
The rift in the UK is deepening, and it's not just felt on the streets. With so many people using their phones to navigate this war, the biggest divide is online.
People will have seen things in the last 2 months, on their phones probably, which they'll never forget, and which they think, or maybe feel, maybe encouraged to think, represent something much broader and clearer and structural, and may well shape their perspectives, their political views, their opinion of government, of broadcasters. It's been so extraordinary, the extent of the violence, the extent of the loss of life, and the sense that people could have that one side is to blame, rather than a more complicated and more necessarily nuanced appreciation of the situation.
Israel or Palestine, and why?
Israel. Israel.
Israel, why Israel?
I'm not saying why, I'm just going with Israel.
UK people who support Palestine, eyes and ears on me right now.
This petition has just been started to get the UK government to put pressure on Israel to let aid into Gaza.
Imagine if you were out and about and a 5 or 6-year-old was being beaten to death.
The difficulty with social media is, of course, you only get sound bites of things. You don't tend to get a fuller context. You tend to get one side that is quite polarizing because that's the kind of thing that you can easily transmit. That's the thing that will generate more views.
Oh, for goodness sake, man, why do we have to get involved?
Israel is not in this conflict for self-defense. They want to obliterate Palestine.
Instead of Hamas, they're a group of terrorists that have one aim, and this is in murdering every Jew around the world.
How are people still confused about who the victim is in this situation?
I stand with Israel and its right to defend itself and to do whatever it needs to do to bring home the innocent hostages.
The way in which people may feel a personal connection with a cause, and the sense we have in the last few years of people being activists but also clicktivists, engaging with things at one remove, I think is a unique part of this.
These public displays of high emotion and opinion can be intimidating for certain communities. For those at this North London synagogue, finding solace and safety together is crucial.
It's a scary time, and people need to know that they're not alone, and that they can be comforted, they can be together, and there are like-minded souls out there.
So a big hello and welcome from Edgware and Stanmore United Synagogues.
So we have a concert. It's really to bring solidarity through song, bring everyone together. Trying to help people feel a part of the bigger picture, making them feel a small moment of joy at this time. Unless we can find a way to work together, to live together, to be together, this will just be an endless cycle. Just another iteration, and each time you clear one iteration of it, the next one comes along and it's worse.
By the beginning of November, an estimated 10,000 Palestinians have been killed by the continuing Israeli bombardment. And the hostages are still being held captive. Jewish communities around the UK organise days of counter-protests.
Bring them home! Bring them home! Bring them home! Bring them home! Bring them home!
In Brighton, a memorial event takes place to remember the Israeli victims.
We intend to be here until late into the evening to read out the full list of names.
Liel Itach, 22, Anatot, killed in the Reim Music Festival.
I have family all over Israel. I'm Israeli. My family live in Nahal Oz, which is a kibbutz on the border of Gaza. The terrorists went house to house, killing and capturing anyone they could. They finally came to my family's house. They shot through the outside door, and they shot Mayan in the head. She died there on the floor in front of the family, in front of her mother and her father and her 2 siblings. The terrorists then took Mayan's mother's phone. They made her unlock her phone so that they could live stream it to the rest of the family on her Facebook, and captured those moments of horror which will be seared into my brain forever. After they had their fun, they took Tzachi hostage. We don't know Tzachi's whereabouts. We don't know, we don't have proof of life. We don't know if he's alive or dead. When they chant from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, it's really terrifying for Jews here to hear it, because it's the slogan of terrorism, it's the slogan of violence and death. And I think a lot of people are they take a view, they pick up bits and pieces here and there, and then they hear some nice sounding words that sound really good, and they have a slogan, and it makes all perfect sense. And it rhymes. And if it rhymes, it must be good.
Kill the babies, kill the children.
How does that make you feel?
I'm so used to it now, I don't even know. I pity him. I think he lacks basic human empathy and compassion. We're not doing anything provocative. A day doesn't go by when I'm not being called a baby killer or worse. We're a small community. We're only 250,000 people in the whole country. We're 0.5% of the population, and we're very vulnerable, and that's why we have to take security precautions. And I don't know, you just kind of have to develop a thick skin, because that's what it feels like to be a Jew in UK in 2023.
It's not about hating the Jews, it's really about the issue. So we don't have those type of things. The victims are on both sides. Yeah. But I can also feel the plight of the Palestinian people, and nobody is taking care of that.
It's a beautiful atmosphere, all colours and creed together against the disgusting genocide that is going on in Israel.
This conflict may be far away from many people and isn't actually a physical threat to this country. But people care about it enormously, because there are in Britain communities which have an emotional, a physical, a familial connection with the participants. It's clear that both sides, as it were, can see themselves as being the victim of what's taken place. And so the effect of this has been really to push further away, to entrench opinion, which I'm sure was part of the motivation for Hamas in planning the events of 7/10.
Here in the UK, we obviously have people who are Jewish, and we have people who are, Palestinian. But I think there are deeper links to that as well, in terms of how we're thinking about where everybody sympathizes. We have a large Muslim population in this country. And, you can see this particular conflict in terms of what is being done to Muslims.
Allahu Akbar!
With no ceasefire, the marching continues. In one of the biggest demonstrations in British history, people from across the country travel to the capital.
We're feeling really united, walking and marching for the same purpose. I don't have no family members or connections or anything like that in Palestine, but I still feel connected being a mother, seeing so many children every day being killed. It's something that really breaks my heart in day-to-day basis. There hasn't been a day since the October 7th that I have not cried.
It's quite simple. From the rivers to the sea, Palestine will be free. It just means we want peace. We want unity. We want people to have equal rights.
Police say 300,000 people have turned up. An alliance of religious and activist organizations, left-wing parties and unions. Even a small number of Jewish groups offer their support.
As you can see, all race, all backgrounds, everyone's welcome. This isn't a fight for one religion, or it's not a fight for one country. It's a fight for humanity.
The nature of this conflict is that it doesn't end, that it isn't resolved. And the idea that communities in Britain will be able to overlook the experience of these last 2 months is hard.
Because you're not just talking about a piece of land, you're talking about who you are as a person on both sides. I think that trauma just runs very, very deep as a result.
This war has uprooted many lives. Hamza Awadi is a Palestinian from the occupied West Bank who fled the country. Now he campaigns for moderation and understanding.
October the 7th, you know, like was beyond my expectations. I was so pessimistic, but was really worse than I ever imagined. So I left with my son October the 8th. I was worried what will happen, and obviously we see now after 2 months that it's really, really traumatic, tragic, and it's not stopping. And the consequences of this will be for years. Well, I'm thinking now about ways to stop the war, but also after the war, there's a lot of work to be done to, you know, relieve the sadness and the traumas that people have been through. Again, how are you? I'm good. How are you doing? Hey, welcome, welcome. Thanks.
Magen and Hamza have been working together to promote peace, united by their shared values of family and friendship across the divide.
Yes, Saturday.
Hamza's son is 6.5, my son is almost 7. And the only thing I want for them is to play football together.
Yes.
You know, and for them not to fear and hate anyone because of their religion or background or skin color or whatever. And I think my hope is that what we're doing now will build that foundation for them to have those values and grow up like that.
The only way that they will be able to play together in the future, if we care equally about their entitlement in life to similar things, because we're in the same shape. You can't have one deserving more than the other. I know children, you know, learn the best by seeing example. So no matter if there's peace or not, I want my son to grow up with these values.
You mentioned the idea of a duty as a father, and I completely relate to that. It's just after my parents were murdered, this is the only thing that feels meaningful.
Yeah.
And what we're starting here is, I think we realize it's a long process that you have to take small steps to achieve that goal, and even if it's a long way.
And we have to start today.
We have to start today.
Yeah.
And I hope there's going to be more people thinking like that.